Hey friends, in this video I'll be sharing all the knowledge I've acquired from having a stomach bag for over 4 years. Here we go! Hi, my name is Esti and this is my channel where I share all my running experiences as well as all my experience with ulcerative colitis. So you could have found this video because you have ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease and you're looking to getting a stomach bag due to whatever reason you got a stomach bag already and you want some extra information, or you're an athlete or fitness enthusiast with a stomach bag just like me. Whatever the reason is, I want you to know that these are my personal experiences and not everyone has it the same way. So first of all, a quick recap and I'll tell you the story how I ended up here. 2009, I was 19 when I started going to the toilet quite a few times, found blood in my stool, went to a doctor, and the doctor basically diagnosed me with ulcerative colitis. I've explained it several times in the previous videos. You can check out the video. I'll paste it above here so you can have a look at that one, or the whole story. After basically 10 years of suffering from ulcerative colitis, I tried several medications. I went through the whole scope of like very light medications to very strong. Ended up in 2020 just pretty much giving up to all the medications. I tried everything, didn't work. And so the best decision was having my colon removed and getting my stomach back. That was 2020. I'm on to my 5th year currently, but just over 4 years now. And that brings me to the first point, which is making that decision was extremely difficult, but then I was so glad I did it. Taking that first step of getting a stomach bag, if you haven't, it's very difficult. I saw it myself as the last option, right? As something I didn't want to have. But then once I got my stomach, I was like, I should have had this surgery earlier instead of suffering for so many years. I always describe that it's a little bit different if you suddenly have an accident or you're diagnosed with cancer and you wake up a few days later in a hospital bed with a stomach bag, but you never had all the urgency or all the symptoms that come with IBD. If you've had it that way, it's probably a bit uncomfortable. If you like me that suffered years and years of chronic pain, going to the toilet so many times, having all that discomfort, then once you have the surgery, it's such a relief. So you feel extremely happy. But from 90% of the people that I know that I've spoken with about this surgery, they're very happy that they did it. So making that first decision is extremely complicated, but once you've done it, it tends to be such a great option because it's a big relief. All the Facebook pages that I started following with people with IBD, everyone seemed to have a very positive opinion about it. And you never really truly believe it completely. You're like, a bit skeptical. But once you've done it, it's, at least for me, it really did change my life. And that brings me to the second point. Having a stomach bag is probably not as bad as you think. I know some people have it hard, but at least for the majority of us, it's been way better compared to having a lot of digestive issues and always, shitting your pants, not being able to sleep, malnutrition because you can't eat properly. If you suffer from all these symptoms, you know what it is. Okay, third point, frequently asked questions. What type of bag is it? Explain the bag. It is, it's called an ostomy bag. It's made out of different plastic materials. Seals everything really well. There's just one brand that I've actually used. I've only used a brand my whole life called Coloplast. I believe they're an international brand. These ones, I'll put all the information on the screen right now of the bag that I have. It's a convex type of bag. How do you empty the bag? The bag has a Velcro and an attachment at the bottom that you can, most bags work at slightly different. The bag that I have is a one single piece. There's 2 pieces where you kind of like lock it in. But this one is just one single piece. Sort of peel the back of the bag, cut the hole to the shape that you want, and you stick it directly in contact with your skin, and you simply just empty it by just pushing it with your hands. You see, at the end of the day, it's just like going to the toilet, you clean everything really well and sanitize and wash your hands. You don't have to change the bag every time you empty it, as believed by some people. You can empty it several times a day. I mean, technically, because you don't have a colon, you'll be going to the toilet a lot more. And so I fill my bag up maybe once during the night and then maybe 5, 6, 7 times during the day. I always only change it maybe every second day. That's when I will change my bag, every second or third day. The other question is, so do you use the bottom, your ass, your rectum to go to the toilet? You don't, because once they cut your whole colon, they only leave the rectum, part of the rectum, and then kind of like attach it to the front part of your belly, under your belly. And so you don't use that, but your rectum still produces some sort of mucus. So there's mucus coming out every day, every second day, every third day, depends your frequency on every person, but most times you will have a little bit of discharge from the back. When you get that discharge, you sort of feel like a little bit of that feeling of needing to go to a toilet, but it's never that rush like I used to have when I had colitis. So I don't really worry. Sometimes I don't even think about it. I get the feeling and then I just forget about it for a few hours, and then eventually, if I'm near a toilet, then I just use it, but rarely use the bottom anymore. Next question, does it smell? I mean, the smell when it comes out, it obviously smells like any poo-poo, like any poo-poo. But the bag itself, it doesn't. I remember once I was having the surgery, from other experiences from older people, they tend to say that it would, but maybe the technology with the bag has come so far, and the bags are, at least in Australia, at least with Coloplast, the brand that I use, they're extremely well developed. They don't have any smell, so you wouldn't have to worry about. And there's so many products now that come. There's a great couple of YouTube channels as well, very specific just on stoma bags, stoma bag living. And living with IBD, they go through like super specific products about minimizing the smell inside the bag, minimizing the smell, the gas buildup. But I've never had an opportunity where I'm just like sitting outside of my house and I suddenly just like get a smell from the bag. Never happens. So you don't have to worry about that one. Do you feel anything? I don't. The stoma, which is part of the intestine that sticks out on your belly, has very little nerve endings, so you don't never really feel when poop's gonna come out. Sometimes you do feel it a little bit, but the feeling is very minimal. It doesn't give you never get urgency. It just suddenly just comes out. Fourth topic: pros and cons. Pros of having a stoma bag: I get my life back. And I thought something that's very simple, but I thought it was very special because I was so sick, especially that last year, hospitalized 3 times, that when I had my surgery and after a few days of recovery, I was able just to go out on my house, walk around the park. And that was something I couldn't have done before that year because I was so sick that I would literally shit myself if I went out. And so it was such just a grateful, thankful moment, being able to go out of the house. And I started to gain weight as well, obviously because you don't have an inflamed colon. You can start eating more and more food and get more nutrient absorption. You gain weight, you gain energy, and you start getting, it's a domino effect of things. You can sleep better now, you absorb all your nutrients, you start eating, gain weight, feel happier, and so life just starts moving positively. Great pro here, right here. I don't need to rush to a toilet because obviously I said I have no nerve endings here, there's no feeling. So because you have a bag that's just collecting all your output, then you don't need to rush to a toilet, only when it gets really full. It's great when running, such a big running aficionado. I do a lot of running, and so, races, people shit themselves. I don't have to worry about those things because my bag just collects. If it gets really full, then it starts getting a little bit uncomfortable to run because, you feel the whole thing on you start feeling the whole belly just really inflated here. And so you don't have to rush it, but you can eventually stop at a toilet and empty your bag. Also, I started to eat all the food I couldn't eat before. So I was avoiding dairy, I was avoiding caffeine, I was avoiding gluten, spices, so many things. And so once I had my surgery, that doesn't mean you can go crazy, but you can look after your health in a more complete way. So let's say I personally believe that pulses are great for you, but when you have colitis, they're so heavy, right? You're trying to eat chickpeas or black beans. Even for a normal person, they'll be a little bit heavy, right? Might get you bloated, even if you soak them and the whole story. But I think just being able to eat pulses again, which are they have a very high nutrient content, then I think that was such a special moment as well, being able to eat. And it leads to the same domino effect of, happiness, energy, nutrient absorption. And so the only thing I will probably say is blockages, but I'll cover them in the next topic. And another pro, you can use disabled toilets. At least in Australia, they give you a disability card. And if you want to go to a disabled toilet, you can. You just carry that card with you and you can go to any sort of disabled toilet. Now, cons. First is after the surgery, the recovery takes a bit of time. It's about 3 months at least for most people to be able to get rid of most of my abdomen pain. Once you wake up from the surgery, it's very painful, but they give you a lot of, like strong drugs, morphine, and I think fentanyl, that's what they gave me, which was crazy to think, but it was so effective, right? You wake up, you just press they tell you to press a pain button if you start feeling anything. You're just constantly pressing that pain button, which was actually great, but obviously not for long term. But it is very painful, right? You feel like everything's just being basically cut open and put all back together. And the first few nights I had to sleep facing up. If I try and sleep on one of my sides, I will feel like everything inside me would just like roll into one side because nothing was attached. It was attached, but I didn't feel attached. Even the first day of the surgery, they got me up and walking because I had to move my legs, and it was just so painful. I was carrying a towel here, just trying to hold my belly and walking all curved, if you can say that. It took some weeks to get rid of some of that main pain, taking still medications and Panadol, and then after a few weeks you start to do more activities. You can sort of like stretch a bit more. I was trying to do yoga, but then when you stretch your belly, you feel like everything's so like tight, right? So good 3 months to feel 100%. I'll tell you a funny story now. The hospital, everything's so sanitized and clean that there's basically not a lot of dust in hospital, not a lot of allergens. So I suffer from a lot of itchy nose and sneezing, especially with like changes of temperature. Let's say if it's summer and I'm in an air-cooled room, I go outside and I'll get sneezy. If I take a hot shower and then it's too cold outside, I'll start sneezing. And so I went to the house. We finished at the hospital, the surgery, everything went well after a few weeks. And then I went back home. I think it was the first or second day. You get back home and obviously there's more, rugs in the sofa, dust everywhere. And I didn't sneeze in the hospital ever for like the whole period I was there. Especially after my surgery, there was nothing that made me sneeze in the hospital. I came back home, probably like first or second day, starting to feel the need to sneeze, and I just didn't think of anything. I literally just sneezed. My belly, I thought like I literally just ripped open my whole belly when I sneezed. I felt like something teared. I feel something tearing. And it was so painful. I almost called the doctors and I almost go back to hospital because I thought something bad actually happened. And from then onwards, I had to be so conscious of trying to avoid a sneezing response. So I'll just cover my nose or try to do whatever I could so I wouldn't sneeze. Anyway, that's something to bear in mind. Please, once you have the surgery, do not let anything make you sneeze. At least the first 2 weeks, Very painful. I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm trying to scare you. I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm trying to warn you. Okay, another cons. Having to wake up during the night, and this is something that if you have 3 meals per day, if you eat dinner between 5 p.m. and 8 or 9 p.m., or even later, most likely from as long as you have a bag, you're gonna have to wake up during the night once. Sometimes I wake up twice, never really 3 times. You will be waking up once a night to empty the bag. The only way to avoid it is like for you to stop eating at 2 p.m. and that's not something viable for me. Like I wouldn't do it. I'd rather just have 3 main meals, especially because I'm exercising a lot and I'm trying to build muscle. I need to eat at least 3 meals every day. And so you could stop eating at 2 p.m. and then just fast, but that's very personal and this is not medical advice at all. I'm just saying you would have to if you didn't want your bag to fill up. So you just stop eating. Normally wake up at around 2 to 3 a.m., empty the bag quickly and then just go back to bed. Sometimes it's just the price you have to pay if you have the bag. I don't mind. Another con, leaks. Rarely. I probably had, can count it in my hands, maybe like 10 times in 4 years, actual leaks. Not from the bag. The bag, it's so resistant that it wouldn't just like rip like a plastic bag if you're trying to pull it too hard. What would leak is inside the stomach, so the flange. I'll show it here, the flange. Sometimes if there's too much pressure, if the stomach bag is too inflated, especially during the night, I've never had leaks during the day, but just during the night, if it's too inflated, obviously there was going to be pressure going under the flange through the stomach and it will start like basically peeling off the bag, so the poop will go through, kind of like through your skin. So those are the type of leaks that I talk about. I think it's a normal thing for most people. Luckily, I have a very flat belly and I don't have a lot of like wrinkles or things around my stomach. People with wrinkles tend to have a few more issues because obviously the attachment, the benefits just outweigh the negative part of it. So you won't have to worry about leakage too much. Especially, I've never really had any issues if I'm outside. I know if I start eating, my bag will start filling up because of the digestive reflex on the muscles. So as I start putting food into my body, everything just sort of goes out. But it's something that it's easy to control if you know how to minimize the when you should empty the bag. One of the things I do for the leakage is during the night, I naturally now just like touch my bag during the night and I know at some point it's going to be full. So sometimes I even sleep on my belly, like facing down, right at the start of the night, and then I'll just like be facing up or to my sides. And if I know I'll just be touching my bag and I know when it's full. So, it's something that it will take you maybe a few weeks, but you get used to it very quickly. So that way you just avoid leakage. Another con, farts or noise. Again, you have no sphincter or muscles at the end of your stomach because basically that's just part of your intestine. You can't really control what comes out. If poop comes out, you can't really like say, oh, I'm just gonna hold it. Or if you never feel a fart coming. Sometimes just be farting. It's not like a traditional fart, just like small gas coming out, very, when you have a balloon and you just like letting the air out like that. Obviously it doesn't sound so sharp. There's something called mufflers. I think mufflers. It's an attachment for the bag, like a cover, basically, just like a cover for the stomach bag and minimizes the noise. Again, 4 years for me, and I probably had like 2 slightly uncomfortable situations. Most people I hang out with know me already, and if I start making noise, especially let's say in a house that everyone's just chatting and there's less noise than outside. Everybody just like doesn't even care anymore. So it's just about like a comfortable environment to talk about these things. And let's say if you're in a public place or in a very serious situation and that happens, you just go like, that's me. I have a stomach bag. I have no control whatsoever of that, and I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do really. Maybe what I try to do is sometimes if that noise happens, I just put my hand like that and then just cover it. If you do this, 90% of the noise is just gonna go away. Another cons, prolapse. I've had 2 prolapses in 4 years. What's a prolapse? part of your intestine just sort of like sticks out even more. So, you know, your stoma is just basically this or this much sticking out, part of your intestine, right, the stoma, and basically just more comes out and it looks like a big stick. It looks like a big sausage sticking out. The first time it happened, I was a bit scared because it was quite a lot of sticking out. Sorry, I'm just trying to make it funny and casual. I'm not a nurse, so I can't be all serious and like professional about these things, right? And so I had a look online and people said just actually put some sugar on the stomach and it would kind of like contract. And it eventually happened. I don't think I put any sugar, but I just laid in bed and started breathing and it suddenly just started to retract. The issue is when you have very frequent prolapses and it stays out and it's really hard to get in, then that's where you know, you have to really go to the doctor and get checked. Another issue with stomach bags is skin complications. So under the flange, basically the surface, the skin area where the flange goes, all the sticky material can get irritated. I'll be showing most of my change of bag here. When I change my bag, you'll notice there's clearly a mark there from so many years of using the stomach bags. It's like darker, but I have no skin complications. Usually they tend to look more like when babies have rashes and the skin just goes really red. If you have like very red skin, itchy, then that's probably an issue. To be honest, that's very normal for everyone that I've seen just changing their stomach bags. That sort of like darker skin or change of skin, as long as it's not red and itchy and it hurts, then it's fine. But obviously there's a lot of products. There's powders, there's creams. I've tried using powders and creams and sticky materials, but nothing really worked. If I put anything apart from just the stomach bag in it, it's not going to stick and usually start peeling off and it's just uncomfortable. So I try and avoid that. And so personally, again, I've been very lucky, but I've never had any major skin complications with that. Last probably negative thing I'll say about the stomach bag, but it's not for me, for women. It's just the limited clothing options, I guess. Sometimes women just used to wearing very tight dresses, and with a stomach bag, it's not like we're not going to be able to see it. Even if you put a very tight belt, there's something that's popping out, especially if the bag starts filling up. So it's a bit more limited. I don't have a lot of knowledge and I just can't really comment very much more about this. I guess it's probably a little bit more difficult. I have very baggy t-shirts, so it's not extremely complicated for me. So regardless of this, compared to how bad my life was, this is really not important at all. I just don't see the cons as anything major, and the pros outweigh everything. Next point, blockages and food to eat. I remember the nurse telling me that I couldn't eat this type of food, nuts or seeds and certain things, avoid blockages. So blockages happen when all the food can't get out of the stomach, so it sort of blocks the path for the output to come out or the food to come out. There's nothing I can't really eat. I've had 2 to 3 blockages in 4 years of having a stomach bag, and those ones were from eating raw fruit in an empty stomach. So the first story, and the funny story is, second or third day out of the hospital, probably like a week or 2 weeks after having my surgery, my stomach was still a little bit inflamed, so there was less room for the food to go out. And I went, with the family to celebrate the whole surgery, and we had a big breakfast. And I was like, I went crazy, right? I had like sausages and hash browns and eggs and coffee, everything I couldn't eat before, right? Bacon, I had all these things. But before that, at home, I was like, I'm just gonna be healthy, start healthy before I have a very large meal with bacon and all these things. And I think I had an apple, and half an apple and half a pear raw. I ate it, empty stomach. Well, I had the worst blockage I've ever had, and obviously very new. I was a rookie and I didn't know. And so I learned the lesson of never having this fruit, but it's it's not about the healthy food, because even very unhealthy food like a McDonald's burger will pass through a lot easier because everything just becomes kind of like a dough. When you chew the fruit, it never really becomes a dough. It's still like if you chop the fruit with a knife, it's still like chunky little bits of like edgy pieces. And so number one rule for me is avoid fruit on an empty stomach. Let's say if I have a meal, I can probably have some fruit with like things with skin, cucumbers or carrots. I can probably have those things, but I have to mix them with the rest of the food. If I've had a blockage with the apples and pears that I told you, I've had a blockage with papaya, a papa, how you call it, empty stomach. And you think papaya is really soft, but I had a blockage with that. And the ways I found to unblock these things, and there's a lot of videos from people having blockages, a Coca-Cola does the job really well. So I personally never drink Coca-Cola, but sometimes you got to do it to unblock the pipes, food to eat. Apart from that, most food I can eat. Seeds, I actually had a blockage with peanuts once, but it was mild, it wasn't too bad. And obviously Coca-Cola. The thing is, having this type of food on an empty stomach is what's really it's going to cause a blockage, at least for me. If I mix peanuts or seeds or other nuts in a salad or in a yogurt, I don't have the issue. So just bear that in mind. If you're going to have anything that's slightly chunky, like raw vegetables or fruit, seeds, something that's probably harder to digest, doesn't become mushy and like doughy inside your stomach, then try and combine it and don't have it on an empty stomach. Okay, so smells with the food that we eat. Certain type of foods like onions, garlic, mushrooms are going to cause a lot more smell. Meat overall are going to cause a lot more smell than, let's say, if you eat things like bread, oats. Let's say if I have a porridge in the morning for breakfast, the smell when that comes out is not going to be nowhere near as bad as if I have eggs and bacon and heavy food. And so just bear that in mind. Sometimes you want to spend the day in, a place where you don't want to risk having to go to a toilet and then maybe smelling really bad. Going on a date, something, just have oats and milder food. Things with parsley tend to actually help a lot. Another thing I've noticed for myself personally, eating raw fish gives me a little bit of like diarrhea, but it's not constant. Because I've had diarrhea a couple of times and the bag just fills up. It's so quick that if you don't keep hydrated, you'll start having cramps and dehydration very easily. One last thing with the diet is the nurses told me to put a fair amount of salt on things. You don't have a colon, so the colon basically just squeezes out the last bit of water out of the poop. And so because you have no colon, your water absorption should be higher. And so electrolytes or salt helps as well with water absorption. Okay, last few topics to cover. Body image issues. I'm slightly concerned with the way I look with the stomach bag, sometimes in public, especially if I don't have anything to cover it. But years have passed and you start to understand that you care too much and the people around you actually don't really give a shit about these things so much, right? I've never had people that will judge you or say, certain things just because you have a stomach bag. I feel very happy with my bag. I just don't feel the need to be showing it the whole time, but then that's probably, like I said, another body issue that I can work on and try and just be more expressive with my bag because it's part of me and we fucking love it. My wife and I, we're very thankful because it changed our lives. It gave us good opportunities to do a lot of things that we couldn't do before, like exercise and travel. How can you not be grateful of something that helps you for the better and change your life? Another suggestion is try different bags. So the first few weeks when I had the surgery, I always used Coloplast. Never had many issues, but I had a minor issue right at the start that I used it was more of a flat bag. It wasn't a convex. And once I adjusted that, basically, for me, it's been clear runway sort of. If you still have issues, there's so many brands that will send you free samples. I'm talking about at least here in Australia. not too sure in the US or other major countries. Best thing you can do is try the bags if they're not working for you, or if you're just starting to test them. Sample as many bags as you can and just be comfortable if the one that you're using is not working, as well as the large amount of products that you can get to, you know, like give you extra support around the edges of the bag. So there's like extra strips that will help you stick the whole bag inside until you're comfortable with what you love. Next, get yourself a belt or stealth belt. I'll link it to the page. Nothing sponsored, but it's I think an American brand, and they've created a belt that goes into your Stoma bag, and I've used that personally for running. That one is extremely useful. I use it for swimming as well because of the Velcro. And if not, like I said in one of my previous videos, I'll post them here, I use crop tops from women. I just buy that from different women's store, and I use that as a belt for my Stoma as well. Some of those ones are really tight, and I can use them when I go out on, you know, if I need to use a tighter t-shirt, formal dress, I love to use just those ones, because the stealth belt is not extremely cheap, but you can get these women's tops that you can use as a belt for your Stoma bag pretty cheap, like $5-10. I mean, I would probably suggest getting a stealth belt, but you don't need to, and there's quite a few cheap options as well just to try it out. Gotta be practical, I guess. So, and here comes a very important tip for somebody who's going to exercise. Never exercise with any of those belts, because they put a lot of pressure on this side, so the Stoma bag, and this, it's going to cause friction if you have a very tight belt. This, it's going to start like creating friction onto your skin, and it's going to cut. It's going to create like little cuts. I'm telling you because I did it before. I went for a long run and ended up bleeding around my skin, around those edges, my skin, because I was exposed. So every time you run, you do any sort of exercise that creates like movement and friction for more than like 20 minutes, just make sure those edges of the bag are covered. Sometimes if I go on a run without anything, just like that, just the bag, I'll put it under my shorts, and then I'll just bring it forward out a little bit so that there's no contact around here and nothing's touching. Okay. One of my last tips is probably have as much fluids as you can, more than the average person, right? You have no colon, no water absorption, so just make sure you drink plenty of fluids. Well, and one of the last things I noticed is if you have leakage, try, and I forgot to say this earlier, try cutting the whole of the bag 1 to 2 mils bigger. So that way, even if some of the surface area might touch your skin, that will help avoid the leakage. If you cut the hole too tight, too perfect with the Stoma, like that, if you cut it too tight, try and get the Stoma in, sometimes it won't stick perfectly right on your skin. That's what causes the leakages sometimes, at least for me. That's what causes the leakages, so I just cut the hole a little bit bigger. So that's more or less 4 years of experiences having the Stoma bag. I hope I covered most of the topics. If you think I missed something, just drop it below in the comments. Let me know what you think or what questions you have about the Stoma bag if you're just getting. I wish you the best if you're getting a Stoma bag, and if you already have it, I hope you're having a good time with the bag. Hopefully this reaches out to some people that really needed to hear this, and that I can help. And if you like the video, give us some support, subscribe, follow us. Thank you for watching, guys. Peace. Oh, the bag says goodbye. Bye.